Welcome to the Power of Pleasure podcast. I'm your host, L'Oreal, and I'm on a mission to help you embrace pleasure as a lifestyle. This show is a love letter to all the pleasure life has to offer. And each week, I'll be chatting with friends, loved ones, peers, and people I admire about all things pleasure. Through these conversations, I'm giving you the best tools, resources, and tips to help you create a life that is ooey gooey juicy good, one shift at a time. So buckle up and let's get ready for this week's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Power of Pleasure podcast. I am your host, L'Oreal, and today I am joined with someone I have wanted to talk to for a very long time. I know that I'm not the only person that kind of peeps in on people on social media and it's like, gosh, I really like to talk to this person one day. And I love when, the universe, spirit, whatever makes it possible for those things to happen. So this woman is a powerhouse. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, an actress, a mama. She's married. She's doing the damn thing. Her name is Sascha, and please help me welcome her today. Round of applause. Hello, hello. How are you?
I am so excited to be here. It's so funny because when I'd seen that you were accepting guest interviews, but I knew we were already connected. And so I almost didn't submit because I was like, oh, well, maybe, if she didn't ask me, maybe she doesn't want to talk to me. It's the stories we have are so wild. So I'm so pumped to be here and to talk with you.
I'm so happy that you didn't stop yourself from submitting, because then I probably would have had to reach out and I would have just been terrorized to reach out to you directly. So I'm really glad that you went ahead and did that. So could you take a moment to let the people know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Oh my gosh, I feel like it's a constant evolution. Always. So I'll give the caveat that I'm into human design. I love it so much because it's helped make sense of me. So for anybody that knows human design, I'm a 3-5, which means I am always in the iteration, learning and iterating. So to give that context, I am an actor, which I've done off and on since I was a child, but I've always followed the intuition. So I knew I wanted to act since I was a little kid. I knew I wanted to be a business person. I knew I wanted to have a big family. So I kind of just follow the breadcrumbs. And so now I am doing all of those things, which is kind of wild when you think about it, but also kind of scary because you don't really have an example of people you see people that become really established at one. But I follow the breadcrumbs, and instead of waiting for everything to be perfect, I just take the action now as they come, and it usually doesn't make sense, but then it works out in hindsight. So we've created a pretty cool life as a result of following breadcrumbs and taking risks.
That's amazing. That's really beautiful. And that's something that I'm in the process of learning how to do. So I'm a 3-6. So we're pretty close in human design. And I have known that I'm supposed to be the follow the breadcrumbs person, but because my default is order and systems and structure and plans, I tend to lean into that, but I never like it. Any plan, I love creating plans for other people. And I've, helped a lot of people with that. I started as a virtual assistant and then I moved into online business management, operations, all that kind of stuff. I've helped people do great things, make big money, with plans. But whenever I plan it for myself, I'm just ew, no, I don't like this. I don't like to do it. It's funny how it just feels so restrictive. And so now, with the podcast and everything, I'm just really leaning into following the breadcrumbs and just letting things work themselves out. That's the one thing I probably haven't done ever. And so why not give it a try, right?
Yeah. Something that I wonder about hearing you say that is because I am really good at planning as well. So for me, one of the first things that I did online after we worked for another entrepreneur and all of that, but I was doing strategy. So my first offer was literally about content strategy and mapping things out and all of that. But I've realized for myself that the desire to map something out There's places we need it, right? Systems and all of that. But for us to plan what's really an intuitively guided process, that's almost trying to create a security blanket or try to plan the future, and it takes the magic out. So it's like we do the planning because we think it's going to do something, and then we don't like it and we don't follow it. So it's like, how can we just release that need to plan knowing we're not going to do it anyway and kind of trust? I think that it's us, especially if you're a 3-line, where we know we're going to fall on our face, that we're like, well, let me just get another notepad and pretend I won't this time. I'm the plan. I'm the plan instead. And then we'll get bored, and then we will fall on our face, and that's how we learn.
Oh yeah, like I've stopped so many things because I got bored,
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying to like follow the plan. And I had one of my mentors tell me, like, you are planning, like you said, the magic, like you're planning all the magic, you're planning all the miracles out of this. Like you're not leaving room, for anything to breathe. Like you're just planning like every single detail, and you're just suffocating it before it gets a chance to really take off, you know?
Yep.
And so I was like, well, damn. Thank you
Yep.
for that. I appreciate it. But, of course, no one wants to hear that. And then I'm super stubborn. I'm a Taurus. And so I like to do things my way, even when they don't work. And so, and so, and so now I'm leaning like in the opposite direction. Like, let's just be a little bit delusional about it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when because I went to two different websites, like trying to figure out what are we gonna talk about, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
love guests that are like, I don't care what we talk about, and I'm like, ooh, that's dangerous for me.
Right. Right.
It's like, so I'm like, okay, let me get something from somewhere. And then I think the second site, the What's Good site, it's like something about delusional, like right at the top. And I was like, ooh, yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about that today. So living delusionally.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people, like I grew up with people saying like that was like a bad word because it meant that
Mm-hmm.
you were crazy. It meant that you
Mm-hmm.
had no grip on reality. But I'm seeing like the influencers and the TikTok girlies kind of reclaiming that word as a means for them to manifest the life of their dreams. And so I wanted to ask you, because that's something that you mentioned, on your site and when you're working with your clients, what does it mean to live delusionally, and how did you decide to lean into that when it comes to your work?
That's such a good question because the name dropped in for me in January during one of my planning sessions. I've finally given up on those, can I say?
Yeah.
But, and I know going into the new year, I'm going to plan and review. But I've figured out that, like, I mean, one year I was like, here's the skills I want to learn, and here's a book list of every book I'm going to read to learn these skills. So like 22 books over the course of the year, and then that was 2020. So like, very
Mhm.
funny. None of that is happening. So I'm still going to plan and review, but I'm going to say that this last intensive one, I mean, I say this last intensive one, and then I remember that I did one like 4 months ago. So maybe I'm hopeless. So maybe I will always, maybe that's my own delusion. But I will say, in a big planning session that I had, like I've known for about a year that visibility is something I need to do. I need to, but I'm a generator. So I'm like, where? Where is it? Somebody
Mhm.
help me, right?
Mhm.
But so as I'm planning, like, what am I doing for my visibility? I said, well, I'll open a new Instagram account. And I'm like, but what is the message? What is the thing that I want? Because it's our agency was good. We help good people do good things in the world. And I know what my program names are and the vibe that I'm creating, but then it's like, but what is the mission? What is it that I want to just shake people and have them all know? And it was live delusionally. So for a number of months, that was like maybe like the little subtitle on my new Instagram account. And then that was the domain when I opened my first human design manifestation program earlier in the year called Goal Alchemy. That was on livedelusionally.com because I wasn't sure how that related to good.
Yes.
What, even though good has transitioned just to really coaching, I didn't know how do these things relate. So I thought maybe it was a separate brand, a separate thing, which is funny because I coach everybody, like integrate it all, make it all make sense. But
Mhm.
but I couldn't see that for myself yet. So it was just a separate, it was like a soft launch. I didn't announce it, but if I was talking about the program, it was on this different domain. And then probably August or so, the clarity on what it actually meant dropped in. And I was like, I'm getting stickers. I got a Stanley Cup, and within like 3 weeks, I left it at the movie theater and somebody stole it
Oh
within
no.
minutes. My first Stanley, like custom. This thing was like $80 and it is
Oh
gone.
no.
Somebody else is living delusionally, which is the point of the message, right? It said
Mhm.
delulu is the salulu. Somebody else is out there with it now. So I am happy for them. However, this message, I'm like, clearly it has legs. But the idea of this message is that I would have people come in and they go, actually, people, when it comes to online business owners, kind of have two places that they stand on marketing. They hate it. They can't wait for somebody else to take it over, or they want somebody to tell them what to do. And
Mhm.
you can tell based on ads on social. It's like, oh, take this Facebook course, take this Instagram course. Here's how I did all this money with vibes. And people are really selling marketing here.
Yeah.
So I would have people come in, and then even if I downloaded, like I realized that my work, like I can download from God I can plug into somebody's vision. So if we get talking and we talk for an extended period and we go deep, I can see your big picture, like literally see it like it's reality. And then messaging will start to come through. And I didn't know how to put a language to this. I was just like, I'm really good at it. It comes naturally.
Mhm.
Because I didn't want to be like, it's from God, and have people be like, whoa, because that's like a real sensitive subject, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, these are my downloads. Now I'm like, okay, guys, like we're gonna plug into the higher power. We're gonna get grounded, and now I feel confident in this message. But for years, I was like, it's just a download. I don't know. It's a flow state. So we get this. We drop into this place. But what I realized is, if I give somebody this message and they're not ready, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And if they're coming to me as, which they were in the beginning, was like as a service provider, then I needed to do more work. I would spend like 6 months with people giving idea after idea after idea after idea, and they wouldn't take any action. And then at the end, I had one that was like, I prefer to work in person. I was like, okay, you could have told me that 6 months ago, because we
Yeah.
can do in person. It's all like every channel is open. So I realized I wanted people to know, like, you just got to be delusional, because it's the impractical part of it. If we go, if I'd hired somebody and they give me the message for live delusionally, and I go, what do you do next? And they go, well, I don't know, just get in the vibes. I'd be like, no, tell me something.
Yeah.
But the thing is like it's a co-creation. You have your message, but what's the aligned thing for you? And like, we can play with your human design. Like, you as a 6 line, I'm like, you got to tell stories, right?
Yeah.
Let the 3-6, like, let people behind the scenes in your process. And the older you get, the more of a sage you become. So like, we're going to work on the human design, but what, when you get into your own pleasure state, when you wake up in the morning and your inspiration comes, what does it tell you to do? And then, are you brave enough to do that? And that's the delusion, because people want to get up and be like, okay, I want to make this much money, so what are the 3 things I should do? Which disconnects you from the whole source. Like, why are we operating in a 9 to 5 job paradigm if we've already opted out of that? Like, people
Yes.
just keep dancing back and forth between the two, and that's what slows them down. So if you could go into the full delusion and live there and take action from that, then everything opens up. So that's the long version of live delusionally.
I love that. And you spoke to so much of my life as an entrepreneur. Like, I have hated working as long as I've been working. Like, when it comes to having to work for other people, I think I got like my first job over the summer at like 14. And then I just kind of never stopped working. And
Yeah.
it's like, I really wish I would have known I could channel that ambition into something that I really wanted to do instead of like constantly trying to find this jobs and stuff. And it's like, I don't have a problem working a 9 to 5, but it's proven to be really difficult to find one that allows for the flexibility that I want, right? And so I, jumped into business like, oh, I'm going to do this and do that and do this. And I have taken the time recently to look back at the pitfalls and what stopped me from like being successful. And usually it's because I was listening to too many people. I wasn't confident. Like, I started out confident, and then the more people that I shared my vision with that gave me advice, because from their proven methods and their mentors and their coaches, and oh, they're making this much money, so it has to be right. It just took away from what I saw and what I wanted for myself.
And
And
your own
so
power.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know that before. Like I didn't even know what mindset was until I started my business. Like
Mhm.
that wasn't a thing, you know? I just knew positive and negative. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't know what mindset was. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And so when I faced a similar issue because I started offering like these intuitive business blueprints or something. I can't remember what I called them because I was trying to blend it all together. And I would get, like you said, you talk to someone and you can see the vision, and then you're like giving them, the strategy and stuff. And then there might be someone that's like, okay, I can do this. But then there's oftentimes people that are like, this doesn't make sense. Like
Yep.
what does this mean? What am I supposed to do? And I ran into that a lot. And then I took it personally.
Totally. We go into
I
a
took it
shame spiral.
absolutely. I took it personally because I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like I wish I could just get you to see it, you know?
Mhm.
I wish I could get you to see it. Like this is exactly the thing. And it never failed though. Like a lot of the people that I've gotten close to that I've done those plans for, they always come back like, girl, you remember like 2 years ago you told me to do blah blah blah. Well, I should have done it then because now I see this other person and they're doing that and it's working and they have a similar business and I'm just like,
Exactly.
I don't know what to say. I don't
Yep.
know what to tell you. And so I try all that said to say I tried to do it for myself and I would have the same reaction. Like that doesn't make sense. I don't
Mhm.
I don't think that's gonna work. And so I'm finally in a space where I'm like, you know what? Let's just see. Let
Mhm.
let's just see if this works. Because a lot of people outside looking in, it makes absolutely no sense for me to be starting a podcast right now.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna do it anyway and see what happens.
That means it's perfect. That's what I'm
Right.
finding. The things that don't make sense, doesn't make any sense for a family of 4 to move to LA when everybody's leaving. Absolutely not. Right?
Mhm.
The things that don't make any sense, those are the ones where the magic happens. Those are I mean, like, even for those of us that read or familiar with the Bible, like, God's never given a direction that made any sense.
Yeah. Complete confusion. Chaos.
Exactly. It's just okay. That's the thing. Let's do it. But especially for you though, with the 3-6, that's like a double. This 6 line learns like a 3 till the age of 30. So you're
Yeah.
just like double speed falling on your face.
Mhm.
And I feel like everybody's journey is different, but I feel like especially for those with a 3 line, eventually we just get to the place of surrender where we go, if nothing is going to make sense and I'm going to mess up anyway, then I may as well do it with pizzazz. Just like lean into it,
Absolutely.
just lean in, because we do realize, like, first you look at your trajectory in hindsight and you go, huh, it kind of does make sense in hindsight, even if it didn't at the time.
Mhm.
And so then the more that you can start to increase trust in whatever your vision is, universe, etc., then you go, okay, well, if nothing makes sense, then, and the other thing is that I realize, because I'm a huge fan, I have been a huge fan of reverse engineering other people's success.
Yeah.
There's magic at play that we can't see. Or you'll see somebody that's like, oh, I joined this program, and it used to actually drive me nuts when I would talk about my mentors and people would hire my mentor instead of me, and I'm like, you don't understand. I'm like, you should just hire me because I am taking in data points from so many different sources. When we break through, it's our own power. So if
Mhm.
we are kind, we give credit to the spaces we're in, but one person doesn't cause our breakthrough, we cause it.
Yes.
It's just that usually other people create a space where we can finally feel our own power, or use mirror neurons and adopt the other person's confidence or boldness or whatever. You feel safe because you have that space. But we create our own breakthroughs. So it would drive me insane when people would go, oh, well, I'm going to hire your mentor. And then I would watch them not get a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Or people that are like, well, if I buy this program, I'm going to have this breakthrough. But the problem with that is you're handing your power over, your own
Mhm.
fate and potential, to something else. So the more that we can like bring that back in and go, okay, this is my journey. What's the wild thing I can do, and trust that and do that? Like, that's how we create our own breakthroughs.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when it comes to, basically what I've gotten so far from our conversation about like living delusionally is just do the thing that doesn't make sense. Like just take a step and do it and just
Yes.
see what happens. Um, because in my experience, maybe some of yours too, like programming will lead you to believe that if you're not following a certain plan, that's going to give you I don't even know if it's the current American dream, but the
Right.
former, where you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you graduate, you get a good job, you get married, and like all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the programming will have you believe that if you don't follow a plan, like if you don't follow a structure, then your life has no meaning, that you won't be successful, and it really leaves people, like me out. Like it leaves us out because it's like, well, I've been doing this and it's not working. And the
Yep.
only thing that people have to say as a rebuttal to that is, well, try harder.
Yep.
And then you get stuck in this cycle of just hard and difficult, and like you're just forcing and you're pushing and you're constantly, it's like, I wish I had something other to say than like beating a dead horse, but it's like you're that's what you're
It
doing.
really is.
That's
Yeah.
just that's what you're doing. And then, you start to kind of gaslight yourself into thinking that there's something wrong with you when there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with you. It's just needing to step out of that box. And I think some people, at least I've done this before, the way that we justify that is by saying, well, I need to be grounded. I need to be realistic about what it is that I want to do, because like even though I have this huge vision, I know that it's possible because I've seen other people do similar things,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not the exact thing. So I know it's possible, but I need to be real. I need to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to those people who are trying to like find balance between this huge vision that they're excited about, but they're trying to like make it make sense and stay like grounded in reality, for lack of a better word?
I love this. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed about Gen Z is that they've realized that enough things are broken that they're willing to opt out,
Mhm.
which is a lot of the delulu is a salulu from the Gen Zers. They're like, I went to a launch event yesterday for a wellness club, and there were different age ranges, but the Gen Zers have such a different, especially the ones that are online or influencers, have such a different sense of groundedness into what's important, because they realize like they are seeing all the noise of online and all of that. And so
Mhm.
while they're using online as a tool, they're like, our inner child is important, our inner peace, our healing, all of that. And I think I think that if millennials and older, but right, I'm a millennial, if we could take that sense of delusion with our sense of groundedness, because millennials really have we have been through it.
Yes.
Like, if anything, I think millennials are grounded. But then the key is not getting stuck, because when people feel powerless, then they go to like eat the rich. That's not the solution.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They go to a, well, this is it. They go to cynicism, and while cynicism can be funny, that's not a reality I want to opt into, because you lose all sense of potential. So the thing is having whatever our goals are, that is grounded. It's just not what we see in the world around us. We see other people, their version of grounded is more like stuck or settled. Settle,
Mhm.
like you don't have to settle to be grounded. So to keep that in mind. The other thing is if we have kids, what are we modeling for them? Like I grew
Mhm.
up, I'll say this, my dad is an astronaut, but he didn't become an astronaut. He didn't go to space until he was, I'm going to say 60. Most people become an astronaut when they're in their 30s. So I grew up, we moved to Houston, Texas for my dad to try to become an astronaut, and I watched him fail at that twice. And I watched him always take the next best step, but I had a dad who was always learning, and he hit his goal once I'm an adult. So I
Mhm.
do have that sense of perspective of watching a parent that always followed what their goal was. So for me, I will say that does come naturally to do that, to model that for my kids. So maybe I have a little bit of an advantage there in having watched that.
Mhm.
But whatever our vision is, that is meant for us. So the hard work of it, like people, we know we have to work hard, and there is no, I don't know of a single lazy millennial.
Mhm.
I don't know a lazy adult. Life is challenging and hard for everyone, but we can wake up in the morning and we can go, okay, I'm going to apply to 12 jobs. Like, fine, if you need to do that, yes, do that. Like, we want to take care of the, I call it a lead domino or first fire.
Mhm.
So let's say we're building, let's say we're in coaching business mode, and we're going to go, okay, L'Oreal, what are, you want to do this thing? Who's a big client that you can get that's going to share about you, that's going to be the lead domino that other people are going to get FOMO, they're going to want to hire you, and then how can you pursue or attract that, right? So that's lead domino. But if you come to me and you're like, you're high stress and you need money and all the things, then we have to start with like, what's the first fire we need to put out, right? So I
Mhm.
say lead domino or first fire. Which one is that? If you have to apply for jobs, then apply for jobs. That's your first fire. But if we're looking at the dominoes, that's still strategic. That's delusional, but it's still grounded. You're not, does it make more sense for you to follow somebody else's plan? Because the thing about somebody else's plan is ultimately, like they say, we make plans and there's other plans or whatever, right? Plans don't usually go. So if somebody is selling you their strategy, it's what worked for them in hindsight. But it worked
Mhm.
for them as a result of their luck, their miracles, their hard work, their experience, their network, their skills, all of those things. So does it make more sense for us to try to put on somebody else's identity and their plan? Or does it make sense for you to establish what's your own lead domino and go after that every morning?
Mhm.
One of them is the
I get
nine to
this.
five path, and one of them is our path. And it's much harder to do our path, which is why spaces, masterminds, mentorships, why that is important. But then again, you have to find the right person for you who's going to hold the big vision for you and believe it's possible for you, and not be like, oh, you just need to get up at 5 or put your kids in extended daycare.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a lot of that's like right along the lines of all the advice that I've gotten. Like I could, and it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have zero desire to wake up that early in the morning. Like I get up that early because I have a kid that has to get on the bus and, cuz her school starts at 7:15. But I would much rather sleep until my body says wake up, you
Yep.
know, and then start my day from there. Like still do my workouts and do all that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to get up at 4. I don't want to get up at 5 and like get dressed just to go to the gym. Like it doesn't. I know that it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm also in the space where I realize that it's up to me to not make it be that way,
Yep.
and then I'm also able to see the bigger picture where there's people looking at me who I don't know yet, but there's people looking at me to see what am I doing. For some reason they're drawn to me. They feel like they need to be following me. They're lurking in the shadows, which
Yep.
fine. They're waiting on me to break out of that because they don't know anything else. And
Exactly.
they see other people saying, "Oh, you got to get up at 4. You got to get up at 5. You got to do this. You have to, and then your kid should be this." And they're like, "That's not
It's
work."
it's impossible, and that causes
Yeah.
people burnout. If you try to put that on, you burn out. If you're watching somebody else do it and trying to comparing yourself, that's not your journey. And
Mhm.
and I've actually seen influencers now that are saying, I did that morning thing and it caused me burnout. So you also don't know where somebody is in their journey. They could be,
Yeah.
we don't know their behind the scenes. That's the other thing, is that there's people that some of these people you'll never meet in real life, and they're not the same thing. You actually,
Mhm.
for oftentimes you have no idea what really is going on behind the scenes for somebody. So we're comparing to what we see to what they're teaching, and we don't know if it's even real, or if in 3 months they're going to be selling the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah. All of that. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So, with that being said, could you share, with the audience a time where you had to just say, "Screw what other people think is possible for me. I'm going to live in my delusion and I'm going to do this thing."
I mean, I would say beginning of creating my very first coaching program, because I was behind the scenes in our agency doing, and I laugh because the agency, We were creatives that would lost our job for another entrepreneur, and we didn't even know what an agency was. But somebody was like,
Wow.
you should start an agency. I was like, just tell me what to do. I will literally do whatever you say. And so that's what I did. That's how we started our agency. So we got to six figures pretty easily. Actually, easily. I shouldn't be like pretty. That part was easy, but at six figures in an agency, I call it scaling hell, because you have enough clients, but you can't hire yet, and you're too busy to really market, so you have just enough. So I
Mhm.
joined my first coaching program. I found somebody whose vibe I resonated with. She also homeschooled. She was on a farm. She and her husband met as singers. She was international. I was like, okay, she's not going to tell me to create a perfect schedule or to put my kid to get more childcare. So I joined her space. And when I joined her space, there were only two of us that were in the agency world. Everybody else was a coach. And
Mm.
a coach to me felt like a delusional business. I was like, what? What are these people doing? And then everybody there was so passionate about what they were doing, but nobody knew how to market. So I had joined this program to learn to scale, and now I have the inspiration for an offer. And we need money because it's 2020. We're due with our fourth kid. Uh, and like every piece of finances had dried up. Like our tax return got sent to a wrong address and was lost. We lost all our clients. I mean, it's
Wow.
so stressful. But I have this idea for this offer, and I know people need it. But to do that would be a whole different diversion of our resources. And I was too scared to book sales calls because our kids would interrupt calls and all of that. And me as the mom, I was like, I'm going to look unprofessional. So
Mhm.
it took me 6 months to work, and I was terrified. I would do my makeup. I would be like so scared before sales calls. And now we got rid of them entirely because we realized our best people don't need a sales call. They just are like, "Hey, how can I work with you?" But that was actually a delusional leap of faith to finally go, "We're just not doing the calls." But 6 months for me to get the courage to be able to do that, and then this constant giving myself of permission to be like, okay, if you really need money, what's the smarter thing to do to double down? Like we had a fully scalable SEO agency. We had a team, we had everything. So it was delusional to go, I'm going to create an offer and see how we can do this. And then that took off. So I had the idea in May. I had my first clients in November, and I had the baby in December. And November was $7,500, and then December was 8, and then it grew from there. So then December, like newborn baby, and like, do we just shut down the agency side of things and pursue the coaching? Which was like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know that there's money here, and if we focus here. So we got rid of like the whole responsible concept of the business, which was the SEO and Facebook marketing,
Mhm.
and followed that. So I would say, especially now, my husband has a greater level of comfort with delusion, but all of the beginning stuff, he used to say my ideas would give him gray hairs. And now he's just like, okay, that's fine. What do you need? But getting through that process of going, this doesn't make, I mean, when I had my first offer idea, I was like, I have this idea. And he goes, the first thing he said was, I wouldn't buy that. But I,
Mhm.
but I was embodied enough in all of that. And I go, you're not my ideal client. I see the people who are going to buy.
Mhm.
So being confident in the delusion, but I'll say in that space, it's like I had such a big goal. I wanted to do like $90,000. So when they'd say, okay, how much money do you want to make? I hadn't sold a dollar, and I'm like $91,000. So I also wasn't afraid to show up and say this big number, knowing that people didn't believe it was possible. I'm sure the coach did not believe it was possible. You can tell, you can read, but I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm going to say it because this is what I feel and this is what I'm creating. So I'm going to say this delusional number. And then it was a year later, but a year later I booked 100K. So surpassed that number. It was on a different timeline. Like we can't control timelines, but that was delusion. That was delusion, and it proved to work. So then the key was staying into it.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned something that really stuck out to me. And you said that you were embodied enough to be able to stay with, what basically what you knew you needed to do in order to pull this off. And so for someone who's new to this, who's new to maybe trusting themselves and leaning into like what doesn't make sense. They're new to delulu being the delulu.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of tips would you offer to help them be embodied in their knowing versus having to constantly get that external validation?
I have so many favorite ways to do this. Some of the things that I actually teach some of these in Goal Alchemy, but I'm gonna tell you some of them. One of them I call it the bathroom. I have a bathroom brainwash board. Like get a dry erase board, a big one. And when you're listening to podcasts like these, when you are listening to programs or courses, when you hear something and you're like, I need that to be my reality, put it on that dry erase board, because then when you're getting ready in the morning and in the evening and every time you're in the restroom, you're looking at it, and that will become your reality. So that's one way,
Mm.
brainwashing yourself. That's one, because when you hear something, you know, like, oh, that's good. I need that belief for myself. Write it down. It will become true. That's one. The other one, I call it a white man energy board. Uh, I got an 8x11 frame from Walmart, put a white piece of paper in it, and then I went and I got stickers off of Redbubble. So stickers of just my favorite characters from TV shows, and it turned out they were all white men, like the guys from Succession and Billions,
Yes.
just like these fully embodied lunatics, right? Where they're taking up space and all of that. So I go and I get those pictures and I put them on there and I put quotes and that kind of thing. But I have clients that have done different versions. One of them, hers has Rihanna, Beyonce, like whatever your vibe is, whatever that when you see that and it reminds you to take up space and be grounded, create that and then put that like on your desk so that when you're doing your calls, you're doing whatever, you can see that because you see that. And like mine has one of the guys with his arms wide open. You see that and it just reminds you like, oh yeah, open your shoulders, like breathe. So that's another one, the white man energy board. One of my friends called it the caucasity board. I was like, yes.
I love that.
I have had clients call it the BDE board, the BCE board, like whatever you want to call it. It's up there. So doing that, or you could print pictures if you can't find them on Redbubble. So anything that inspires you just to take up space, be ridiculous, whatever the version is for you. Post-it notes. Like it's all of post-it notes behind your it's so funny. I used to drive my husband insane. He got these nice monitors for us that we could like plug in our computer to. I didn't use mine as a monitor. I used it as like another wall and I put all my post-its on it. So but post-its, what are the things that I need to make true for myself? And evidence seeking. Here's another one. I actually had a block around this because I was like, well, I'm so lucky to have all these kids, like, and I felt upper limited. And so I had a mindset coach and she's like, find evidence of other people that have kids, more kids than you do, that also have a lot of money, that have a good life. And I was like, I don't know of a single one, which was interesting. I can think of tons now, but so I had to put evidence of these people just to normalize, okay, what I want is possible. So how can you normalize what's possible? Oftentimes what people do too, especially beginners, people do this at all levels, but in order to break through, this is like one of the biggest ones, is when you see somebody who's doing something you want, you have to see it as possible, see it as like a connection wavelength. Whereas most people see somebody who has something they want and they go, they have it because of this reason. Here's the advantage they had. And that causes a separation, which ensures you won't get that thing. So that's a big one. When you see somebody, don't try to reverse engineer them. Be friends with them. That's the evidence of what you want is all around you, but people often miss it because they're in comparison.
Mm. That is so true. Like that's something that I've done so much. Like I've looked for evidence and then sometimes I find it and I'm like, well, they started out like this and they,
Yep.
they had to do blah 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 instead of just I wanted to see if it was possible. Here's this person. It's like you have to kind of there's this impulse to like explain it away
Mm-hmm.
for whatever weird reason. But I love those ideas. I've got some stuff I can do now.
Yes.
Moving forward. Um, so what is the most delusional goal that you have for your future right now?
This
Um,
one's so fun. This is so fun.
yeah.
So I did this vision boarding thing yesterday at this launch event. Excuse me, I went to. So first off, like power of manifestation, I went on Threads and I was like, I've just moved back to LA. I really want in-person connection. And so I got invited to two amazing events yesterday, and one of them is vision boarding. So I go and I'm like, I know human design, I'm a non-specific manifester. So the vibe is more important. So I made a vibe
Mm.
board instead of a vision board. I'm laying all my things out, a gust of wind comes and blows a card onto my board. Now, I'm reading 10x is greater than 2x, something like that.
Mhm.
It's a book my clients have recommended. They've gone, this guy sounds like you. Have you read it? And I'm like, no, if I already know, why am I going to read it? Okay. I'm now in a book club reading it. It's amazing. It's so accurate. And it's delusion. And the idea is, what is your 10x goal for your month? So what's your 10x goal for your month? And then what you do is you go, well, that would be impossible unless. What are the conditions that make unless real? And you focus on those things. So I was literally
Mm.
telling my husband about it the night before. I go, so the 10x would be 1 million a month. Look at the card that blew on my board. 1 million.
That's amazing.
I was like, what? What? That's insane. So 1 million is 1 million. That's my delusional 1 million a month. That is the delusional. That's the next delusional goal. Isn't that wild?
That's so cool. I love that because I was just in a meeting, like not a meeting, but like a coaching call. Um, we're in October, so this was like late September, and they're like, "Oh, what's your goal for the rest of the year?" And I was like, 20,000. I've made $0. And then she's like, well, scratch that goal and double it. And I was like, what?
There we go.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Because I've
Yep.
made exactly $0, right? Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have a job, but I have no offer. I don't have this. I don't have that. And she's like, none of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like you need to do? And I'm like, well, I feel like I need to be talking to people. And she was like, do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's dumb, but I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
Like that makes no sense, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm enjoying the process, right? And I know that there's something to what I'm doing, even if the other pieces haven't fallen into place yet. And so I love that the when we ask for something, we receive it, even if it doesn't look the way that we thought it was gonna look. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And something else too. I mean, you are a 3-6, so you have no idea what actually, like if you were a 4 line, I'd be like, you got to talk to people.
Mhm.
For a 3 line, who knows? A 3-6, who knows? But I do know, I had a note up before that says the universe works through people. For anybody who remotely feels like an introvert like myself, it probably feels counterintuitive. Or if you grew up with that sense of do it yourself, individualism, figure it
Mhm.
out,
Mhm.
then you also need the reminder that the universe or God works through people. So talking to people is like, you never know. You never know what could happen. And we're not meant to do
Never.
this alone. We're meant to do it in community and in connection. So talking to people might sound delusional, but that's magic comes that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I've known for a while, as much as I like to say I don't really like dealing with people, it's more of like I want to be able to control how many people I have to deal with
Yeah.
at a given time. Like I don't want to have to deal with lots of people at one time. I want to be able to control who I talk to and when I talk to them. Like I want to have some sense of control. I don't want to just have to or like start to feel obligated to give of my time and energy to people, which
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough is what happens when you're working a 9 to 5, right? So,
Yeah.
so talking to people has been amazing. And every single conversation, even when I started this last year, because this started as a summit, I interviewed like 40 people. And it was amazing. And people are like, I could never do that. I'm like, well, I love this and I want to keep doing it. And every single conversation that I have had from that point to this point, and I'm sure in the future, I get something, they get something, like it all works out and it all just comes together exactly the way it's supposed to. So I'm gonna keep leaning in and see, what happens. Worst case scenario, I don't make any money, but I feel really fucking good. And that still means something.
That's the frequency of attraction, though. That gratitude and being in that joy, that makes you magnetic. And you never know what happens, but you have more is going to come to you from that than when you're like a sad dumpster fire online, you know? People are going to watch you, and not you, but in general, right? People are going to watch
Mhm.
the fire burn, but that's not going to attract anything good.
Mhm. Absolutely. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So we've talked about quite a bit, and it's like I might need to end up making these interviews longer because I'm just really enjoying like everything that's been coming up so far. But if you could take maybe one golden nugget from everything that we've discussed so far that you want to leave the audience with, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Because I'm like, okay, listen, everything that I said you could do to get embodied is, I know that's brilliant. Like, you could take a page of notes and,
Yes.
like, that's amazing implementation stuff. But it's super important that people know that the power is within themselves. So the more you can do to get grounded in your own power and continually bring your power back in, that's going to be what makes the biggest difference, because that's what the
Mhm.
people that you admire are moving from. They're moving from a space of their own embodied power. So whatever you can do to create that in the most grounded way possible will really move things for you.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And so, of course, this is a podcast about like pleasure and joy and all of that stuff. And so, one question that I ask all of my guests is, what does pleasure feel like for you?
You know, it's so funny. I've been talking about that word a lot lately because it comes up. But I grew up with that version of, like, pleasure felt like a dirty word, like, very.
Mhm.
So it's like, that felt very pleasure and enjoy. Those were like, ooh, who does that? you know?
Mhm.
So my own understanding and expansion of the subject is something that, like, no, it's a broad word. I actually find that I'm quite pleasure driven and grounded in pleasure. And what are the things that create that? I was laughing yesterday. It's like, I give me a view and good vibes and I'm there. But I
Mm.
but I'm also like that within my own space. Before we sat down, I lit a candle. Like, what does the environment smell like? Even in this Airbnb, I'm like, what can I do to customize so that when I wake up and I feel good, because my brain will just take off in no good direction naturally first thing. So what can I do to cultivate, like, what feels good? I got these new cotton sweaters. I'm in cozy mode, but rather than wearing sweats, like, what are the little things we can do to upgrade your cell phone case? Like, being intentional about what we surround ourselves with, what we put in our heads. To me, that feels like pleasure. Like, even in the evening, if I have time to watch a show, what feels good to me this evening? Like, there's not much in my life that's on autopilot. What is it that's going to bring me comfort and make me feel grounded and make me feel like the cuddly person for my family and community? So I guess being intentional about how everything feels is how I look at pleasure.
I love that. I really love that, especially when you said autopilot. Like, how many of us are just walking around on autopilot, or like I like to call it zombie mode,
Yep.
where you already have like these kind of canned responses for questions. Like, you already know what you're going to say if someone asks a certain question. You already know what you're going to do, for the day, just not giving any thought, just trying to get through the day.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, I mean, I will look at the calendar and go, do we have anything fun coming up? What can we schedule? Is there a museum
Mm-hmm.
experience? What are the vision board things? Because there's so many cool, especially in a big city, so many fun activities. Like, there's a balloon experience and there's a slime experience. So what are those things can we put on the calendar in the future? Or how can we celebrate each season? And sometimes we'll invent things, we'll be like, is there a religious holiday coming up that we can just, like, opt into? we did last year after Christmas. We did Three Kings Day. Like, what else can you add in that are holidays or rituals or seasonal celebrations to add more joy to your life?
That's beautiful, and that just give me more ideas. Like this, ooh, I have so much stuff I want to do, especially like around the holiday season. I'm looking to do some stuff because October is my favorite month because I love all things like spooky, scary, creepy. Like my dad, I know he pissed my mom off, but like he had me watching like horror movies. I'm two
Stop
years old.
it.
I'm like 2 years old watching like Freddy Krueger
Oh my
and
gosh.
stuff, and she's like, "You're gonna fuck her up. She's gonna be crazy." But I love like horror and stuff, and so I'm trying to find like haunted hay rides and stuff like that to get into because my youngest, she says she doesn't like it, but she likes
She
it.
does.
And so she's like, I don't like it, but she's like, can I stay and watch it? So,
Okay, that's cute.
yeah, so definitely, just looking to find ways to have fun, to have some joy, to feel good, and share it with other people too. I don't
Yeah.
think it's something that you have to do in isolation.
Yeah.
And so, I guess the final question that I wanted to ask you is like, we talked a lot about intention just now. So, would you say that that's like your non negotiable pleasure principle, or would you say that it's something else?
No, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. That again, my husband is now on board. He's he no longer gets. He knows that if we're out and there's a crystal area, I'm going to go and look at them. And if there's something I must have, but he knows that I have a level of intentionality. Like we went weekend before last to this maker's market, and there was nothing that I wanted to purchase, but for me, I got such an enjoyment from looking at everything. If I saw something I liked, connecting with the maker and asking them questions and signing up for email lists. So pleasure doesn't always mean buying things. Sometimes I get pleasure from making, I call it an acquisition list. It's in my
Mm,
iPhone notes. So when I see cool things, I'll put it on the acquisition list. And then later when I want to reward myself, then I'll go to that list and be like, oh, what's the thing that I feel like getting now? Like when you get a new client or something to celebrate and anchor moments. So intentionality doesn't mean like the immediate dopamine hit of purchasing something. Sometimes it's in the act of discovering, observing, adding to a list for the future, like cultivation.
that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think too, a lot of people confuse joy and pleasure with either it being dirty or it having to be something that happens instantly. Like they have to have it right now. And then if they don't get it right now, then what's the point? They kind of dismiss it. So I appreciate you saying, it's not always in the instant gratification.
Yeah, it's something else that I found is when we go and we I mean, first off, there's so many of us, I have four little kids, but when we're going and observing and having conversations, people will tend to give us things. So
Wow.
so they gave like all the kids little crystals. We were at this candle tent asking them, and they had a little ghost candle. And so they just gifted that to my smallest. So sometimes you'll find that when you are there because you are providing value and when you're expressing interest, you're not just showing up like I'm going to buy something and leave. When you're showing up open-hearted or for the connection with the people there, you'll find that you'll receive more than you even anticipated, and it becomes a different experience altogether.
That's beautiful. Okay, so unfortunately, our time has come. Uh, like like boo, but yay because it's been great. How can the people who have been listening and are likely just as excited as I am, for like hearing from you, how can they follow you and stay in touch with you online?
Everything is linked on what'sgood.co. So what's GUUD.co. My social links, my Facebook group, free resources, even our mastermind and membership, everything is on there. So you can find me through there. There's my name is kind of hard to spell, so just go through what'sgood.co.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for taking the time to speak with me and share your experience with the audience today. I'm definitely looking forward to speaking with you again in the near future.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Power of Pleasure Podcast. Make sure to check the website, powerofpleasurepodcast.substack.com. On the site, not only will you find some blog posts and other helpful tools to help you continue the mission, you'll also be able to access the show notes as well as any social links and resources from this week's guest. While you're at it, if you found this information valuable, which I'm sure you did in some way, go ahead and take a few moments to leave a rating or review wherever you're listening to this episode and share out on social. I hope to see you next week for another episode of the show. And in the meantime, in between time, go out and do one thing today to help you embrace pleasure as a lifestyle.